Hello and welcome to the Going Disparate podcast with me, Pam Rogers.
And me, Mara Dolan. I'm the lifelong Democrat, and that makes you what, Pam?
The lifelong Republican who generally is 100% correct. Is that the answer you were looking for?
You know, I like to say when two smart people disagree, it's because they're both right. I don't think we're both right. I think I'm right. Though we actually agree on an awful lot. And I know one thing we really agree on today is being so excited about our guest today, Congressman Seth Moulton. He'll be joining us shortly. But before we get to that, just want to remind folks, if you're listening to us, make sure that other people can too. So just subscribe on any of your podcast platforms and give us a 5-star review. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, you name it, we're there. And we want to hear from you too. So drop us a line at pamandmara@gmail.com.
Hey, and let's talk about some hot takes on crime right now. And
hot takes on crime. Yes.
The biggest story though, right now that is just dropping while we're recording this is Hunter Biden's plea in federal court has blown up.
I wouldn't put it that way, Pam, and I don't think it's that big a deal, but go on.
Well, the plea blew up. I mean, like the plea blew up. I mean, how many times have you stood next to a defendant and the plea has blown up? It's happened to me a million times.
Well, I think the plea is going to be revised because there was a question raised by the judge as to whether now Hunter Biden, by the way, he's charged with 2 misdemeanor tax for failure to pay taxes. He's now paid those taxes, and they were going to enter into a plea agreement. The judge today said, "Wait a minute, I'm not sure whether the immunity that's part of this plea deal will cover other things." So she wanted some clarification. And the latest I heard was that they may have actually already come to an agreement. So I don't actually think it's that big a deal, but give us your perspective.
I'm going to tell you, if I can't stand it when I'm trying to do a plea and things go wrong.
Yes.
And they're like, you got to come back. It makes me insane. Number one, it just drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Number 2, you're forgetting the felony gun charge that was dropped. And I think, what is it? I don't want to say if it's a felony or misdemeanor count that on a separate gun charge for
that was charged. And for clarification, he was under the influence of cocaine at the time. He was
okay, that makes it okay. Perfect.
No, it doesn't make it okay.
I love it when people who have cocaine are on cocaine also have firearms. It's great. I hope I live next door to someone like that. They sound fabulous, Mara.
I agree, but I think it's an important consideration.
Crap.
And he was dealing with the death of his brother. So I think that's
Mara. Hold on a second. This is what I'm totally hot under the collar about, like literally hot under the collar. And I think you should be hot under the collar about it too. Mm-hmm. You and I both represent indigent minorities. Yes. I have represented indigent minorities for 22 years, every single day in a courthouse, like every single freaking day, right? And how many of my indigent minority clients get deals that Hunter Biden got? They do not. And I want to talk about equity. I'm serious. I want to talk about equity in the justice system because this is bullshit.
First of all, Massachusetts has minimum mandatories on guns. So if Hunter Biden had been charged under Massachusetts law, there wouldn't have been.
Okay, Mara, you don't have to lecture me on Massachusetts law.
You.
I know it better. I know it better than anyone else. All right. Yeah. What I'm saying is, where is the equity when I stand next to a Dominican illegal immigrant who's poor and Hunter Biden gets to get probation and my client gets the minimum mandatory? How is that equitable?
I don't like minimum mandatories. I have been outspoken against minimum mandatories.
That's not the question.
The question.
The question is, how is it fair?
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's fair. I'm saying that it's different because Hunter Biden is charged federally. If he were charged under Massachusetts state law, there would be a minimum mandatory. I don't like minimum mandatories, and this is the reason why.
So you think it's completely equitable?
No, I obviously
think it's A-okay that a white guy who's super rich and politically powerful gets a sweetheart deal, and all of my clients get to go to prison, and your clients get to go to prison. It's wonderful.
I don't think it's equitable, but what I'm saying is that based on what I know on Hunter Biden's case, the fact that he repaid the unpaid taxes.
His friend repaid the unpaid taxes. Let's be honest. He didn't pay it himself, but
somebody
whatever.
Helped him pay them, but they've been paid. Okay.
Who cares? All right. Who cares? Again, I would be in federal prison if it was me. So would you.
I'm not so sure that's true. I don't think that you would be.
Mara, come on. I don't know how this does not drive you crazy. I don't know how it does not drive. And it has, honestly, it's nothing to do with Hunter Biden necessarily. any white man who is privileged, who has political power, who gets a sweetheart deal, and our poor, pathetic clients get to go to prison.
What I'm saying.
How is that fair? Then the Massachusetts legislature
say
should
something?
change the laws
I agree
to
with
be
you.
equitable.
I agree with you. There should be equity. I'm not saying that what Hunter Biden got was a sweetheart deal. I'm saying that what our clients get is unfair, and they should be treated the way Hunter Biden has. I don't think Hunter Biden should have a harsher penalty than the one he's been offered. I think our clients should have less of a penalty. I think sentences are too long. Yes,
I totally agree with you.
Are too long.
Too long.
They're in jail for too long. They're
Right.
not released on parole when they should be, and it's ridiculous. If you
Right.
pose a danger, that's the top concern. If someone poses a danger, they should be behind bars. But there are a lot of people who are given sentences that are much too long. They're rehabilitated, or they're even self-rehabilitated before they even go to prison. And we keep them in prison for what, $100,000 a year? And how much would it cost to send them to community college? Why don't we send them to go to college? That is the best predictor of preventing recidivism, is education.
Okay, well, I don't think we should pay for someone's college education. Like, thank you for trafficking in cocaine. Here's a free college education. Like, that
I
makes
think
no
we
sense,
should.
Mara.
I think we should pay for everyone's college education. I think college should be free.
Okay, then college should be free. Then people like Elizabeth Warren should get paid, $0 for working at Harvard, as opposed to the $300,000 she got paid for teaching one class.
Well,
So-
I think it's a separate issue, but I do think I think education should be free. Everybody should get as much education as they want.
I think that's great, but then colleges have to have like zero budgets,
No,
and
no,
people
no.
must get
I
paid.
mean, no.
nothing.
I'm not saying we
Nothing.
don't have private colleges. I'm saying that you should be able to have community college. You should have access to education. And
Well,
listen,
people do. They just
listen,
can't
I'm not
afford
gonna, I'm not gonna be defending Harvard today. I mean, I really hope they get rid of legacy admissions, because that is a scandal.
Listen, I could give
But
two
we're
craps about Harvard. Honestly, I could give two craps about Harvard. Good luck. All the kids who go there are going to be super successful in life. I wish you the best, right?
Well,
Again,
Seth
I'm
Moulton, our
concerned
guest-
about my
our-
clients, Mara. I'm concerned about
No,
my clients.
I share the same concern. It's just that what I'm saying is that they should be treated as well as Hunter Biden was
Right. So
treated.
the next time I stand in front of a judge on a gun charge, I'm going to say to the judge, I would like you to treat my client exactly the way Hunter Biden was treated in federal court.
And you can't under Massachusetts law.
Correct. And the
Why I
judge is
don't
going to
like
say,
minimum
I
mandatories.
can't. But I'm going to say, but why not? Why can't rich, white, powerful men who get away with murder, but my poor Dominican client gets to go to prison?
I agree with you. It's outrageous.
Yes.
And we need to change the law in Massachusetts.
I'm irate. I'm irate, Mara.
I can
am.
see that.
Because you know what? Honestly, I've busted my ass for 22 years for these people, and I see the treatment that they get, and it's not fair.
It's appalling. And do you know that Massachusetts racial disparities in our criminal justice system are actually worse than the national average?
I
We're
believe it.
worse than the national average.
I
Yeah.
believe it.
We have the highest, guess which state has the highest Latino incarceration rate in the country?
Massachusetts?
Yeah, it's not Florida, it's not Texas, it's Massachusetts.
I'm not surprised.
No, it's horrifying. We're not disagreeing at all. We're actually agreeing, just coming at it from different sides. But yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I just get upset. I get upset.
No,
get upset.
I get upset too. And I seriously, I've been speaking out against minimum mandatories for a very long time. And we see them all the time. And it's just not fair. It's not right. And it ties the hands of judges. If you have really good judges who are going to make good decisions, then they don't need minimum mandatories. They can, I mean, I remember a minimum mandatory on a drug case it was like a mother. And I mean, it was just like, she was this poverty-stricken mother who had assisted a drug deal and was paid $20. I mean, it was just unconscionable. No, the criminal justice system is terrible.
Horrifying.
We
Absolutely
agree.
Horrifying.
We
Yeah.
agree.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so anyway, that's what I'm up in arms about today.
I'm up in arms too. I'm just,
Shouldn't seem as up in arms about me. That is
Oh, no,
what I
that's
am.
because frankly, I mean, I'm working on these issues every day, right? I'm running for governor's council, and in Massachusetts, the governor's council decides who serves on our parole board, and they decide who our judges are. So I'm putting a lot of energy into doing that because I want to make sure that we have judges who do treat everyone fairly. I want to make sure that we have judges who don't treat people of color differently than they treat white people. The fact is, if you are a person of color in Massachusetts and you are sentenced, on average, you're going to serve a longer sentence than a white person. If you're put on probation, it's going to be for a longer term. If you're released on bail, it's going to be for more money. And the parole board basically doesn't let anybody out. And the parole board just recommended 9 people for pardons, and the governor's council approved the pardons. This was the first. Governor Healy recommended these. It's the first time a governor has done this so early in their term. This is really great. So what does the parole board do? They turn around and said they won't consider any more pardons until Governor Healy revises her clemency policy, which she said she was going to do earlier. But seriously, why do you have to wait for the governor to revise her clemency policy to consider a parole petition? That's ridiculous.
Right. It's all political.
I am as up in arms as you. I'm just spending a lot of time and energy in other ways to address these issues.
I know. And you're focused on Massachusetts for sure, working on that for the governor's council and your campaign, which is amazing. So that's great. But I still think Hunter Biden is getting a sweetheart deal that no one else would get because he's politically powerful.
So let me just ask you this. If other people were treated the way Hunter Biden, I mean, is it that you object for more than just the fact that it's disparate? This is going disparate. But is it because if everybody were treated that way, if, for example, someone in Massachusetts charged with a gun crime could, not do any time, would this then be acceptable to you? Because I mean,
well, no, here's the thing. Obviously, under 269-10A, 18-month mandatory House of Correction, right? That's possessing a firearm outside your home. 10H is possessing a firearm, unlawfully possessing a firearm inside a residence, right? There's no minimum mandatory on a 10H. Have I gotten deals before for certain types of different reasons that I've had to work hard for? I've been able to get prosecutors to take a 10A and recharge under a 10H, right? Taking it out of the minimum mandatory. So I've been able to do that. It's not often, but I've been able to do that under certain circumstances. So again, just because someone's pleading out to a gun charge, right? Depends on what the charge is. 10A, going to jail. 10H, not going to jail. But I'm sorry, what was the question?
I'm asking if your objection to what appears to be the resolution to Hunter Biden's case is based on the fact that other people don't get what he gets, or is it just based on what he's getting? Because I think it's more about the disparity, and I agree with you.
It is about I think it's both, to be honest with you. It's about the disparity, but it's also about and it happens in every state, and I think it happens in every government across the world. Okay, people who are politically powerful get special treatment. Period. As well,
privilege is stunning. I mean, we see this in our line of work all the time, and it's like it's a liberal cliche. But the more work I do as a public defender, the more I realize that my clients are there because they're not privileged. They're not.
Correct.
They're not born into money,
of poverty.
They're not born into safe neighborhoods. They're dealing with whatever it is they have to deal with. They don't get the help they need for mental health issues or substance use disorders. When they find a job, it's a crappy job. It doesn't pay enough to live on, so they have to have more than one job. I mean, they're dealing with all these psychosocial stressors that more privileged folks are not. Correct. And frankly, I don't think punishment works. I seriously think the issue is public safety. If someone poses a danger,
there's reasons for jails and state prisons.
There are.
Absolutely. There are. I mean, like, there are people that need to be jailed for particular reasons. There are dangerous people. Like, it's not just like, I'm sorry you committed a crime. Like, I'm sorry you murdered your wife. You seem like a great guy.
I agree. And sex offenders, there are all kinds of people who should be behind bars. Yeah. But there are just so many people who are in for too long. They're in for years longer than they need to be in.
They can't. I agree with you. And again, and this is what I think it's important when you have informed judges.
Yes.
So if you have a judge that has maybe been a prosecutor and a defense attorney,
yes,
they have seen both sides.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And they can make better decisions. I oftentimes, right, I know you and I do the same thing. We're going disparate in front of a judge, and I'm asking a judge to give my client X, Y, and Z, and for these reasons, right? And I state all the reasons why, and I'm hoping that that judge is sitting up there listening to what I'm saying and is saying to themselves, yes, this person does deserve this because of all of this stuff, right? And I'm just giving like generalities because, right, we could talk about 18,000 different things, but I just want a judge to listen And again, they have the right to listen to the prosecutor. And if a victim wants to elocute, same thing, right? But just take everyone into consideration and treat each person individually rather than, well, it's a, OUI 2 and
Right.
you're all going to get X or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No,
I
I agree with you.
look
And
at the
what
person.
what I want is to know that the judge is going to actually see my client, see the defendant, and understand who they really are. And I think that, as you know, as a defense attorney, we have conversations with our clients. We know who they are. We know what their lives are like. We know how we think. I'm sure you're going to agree with me. 99, maybe 0.9% of them understand what's going on in their lives. They understand what they need help with. They understand where they're messing up. They know where things aren't working, and they want things to get better.
See, I
Okay.
would disagree with you. And
Okay,
I don't mean that in a malicious way, disagree with you, like about the client. I unfortunately think because people grow up in this cycle of poverty, violence, lack of education, breakdown of the family unit, that they don't get to see proper role models or, understanding maybe, like, just for instance, how to deal with your anger. Like maybe if you had two parents in the home and, you see the dynamic between two parents.
Right.
Therefore, when you become 18, 20, 22, and you enter into a relationship, and you have a feeling of anger, you know how to act because you've been taught tools, you've seen your
Right.
parents,
Right.
right? And they don't have that.
They don't have good modeling. Right.
Right. They don't have good modeling. And again, it's not their fault.
Well,
I just mean, like, they just don't even know. Like, they just don't even know what they don't know.
That's why I get so upset when judges yell in court. Many judges do not, but there are some judges who just sit up there and yell. They yell at defense counsel, they yell at the prosecutor, they yell at the defendant, they yell at probation, they just yell. And this is not good. This is not a good role modeling. We're supposed to model a reasonable, civilized resolution of conflict. But I just, I want judges who have also served as defense attorneys, because I think they'll have more insights into the people they're judging, or the judges in our criminal courts will have more insights into the people they're judging. And right now in Massachusetts, back to Massachusetts, in our trial courts, the ratio of former prosecutors to former public defenders is 2-1. And in the appeals courts, it's 4-1. And on the SJC, I think it's 5-3. I mean, it's incredibly tilted in favor of former prosecutors. I don't have anything against prosecutors. There are a lot of wonderful prosecutors out there, but they simply do not have the experience that defense attorneys do with talking to the people who are dealing with the situations that these folks are going to be judged on.
Right.
So I want more of that in our courts. Just what I'm doing.
Totally and completely agree with you. I mean, we really,
Totally agree.
I would love to see more defense attorneys on the.
Me too. No, so we really have very similar views of the criminal justice system and the court system and what we need to do. And frankly, not to be campaigning too much, but that's why I'm running for governor's council, because we have to have somebody who understands these things, who's helping us pick our judges and our parole board members and making decisions on clemency, commutations, and pardons. And it's just because otherwise people are operating in a vacuum of ignorance. They really don't understand what they're dealing with. And I think the only way you can understand what's going on is if you're there.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. Getting back to Hunter Biden.
Oh yeah, Hunter Biden.
Getting back to Hunter Biden.
Wait, I thought we were going to talk about the college murderers.
Wait, I just gotta ask you one wrap up on
one wrap up on Hunter.
What if it was Donald Trump Jr.? Right. Don Jr. What if he was charged with not paying his taxes and this felony possession of gun charge, illegally possessing a 38?
There's just so many bigger fish to fry. Like, I just really.
And you'd be like, okay. You'd be like, hey, it's fine. He didn't pay it. Someone else paid it for him. It's paid. He's going to do probation. There's some misdemeanor counts and the gun thing is going away.
That's kind of my
you'd be okay with it?
Yeah, I would.
I don't think you would.
No,
I think you'd be like, the Trumps. Like, I think all the Democrats would be like, Trumps. Oh my God.
Many Democrats would, but I wouldn't. No, I mean, if he pays his taxes, whatever.
I don't know. I don't think you should be okay with it no matter who it is.
Okay. We can disagree.
As long as they're politically privileged, I don't think we should be okay with it. Again, I don't care if they're Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Green Party. I don't care.
Everybody should be treated the way the privileged are. That's really the solution to science. Just treat everybody the way you treat the privileged. That's it. We just solved everything, Pam.
What do you
That's
think happens?
equality.
Right. What do you think happens
That's
next?
what's called equality.
Well, what happens next time I stand in front of a judge on a gun charge and I say, Judge, I would just like my client be treated exactly like Hunter Biden.
Which
Judge is going to be like, sidebar.
Yeah, I was going to say, are you saying that in open court or is that at sidebar?
Honestly, I think it would depend on which courtroom I'm in, which judge I'm in front of.
I think it would. We have variety. And seriously, we got a lot of wonderful judges out there who are really conscientious, hardworking, dedicated people. I want my clients to leave court knowing that they've been treated fairly and treated with respect.
Right. And
there are judges who are really good at that, and you can do that without in any way condoning someone committing a crime.
Yeah.
You're just treating them fairly.
Right.
And
yeah.
equally.
And I totally agree with that. The judges I appear in front of are wonderful. And I always say, I don't have to agree with all their decisions.
Right.
I'm happy as long as they just apply the law equally. And if that means I lose, but they're applying the law, that's great. I'm happy. I don't, I'm okay with it. Just apply the law.
And this is a thing that I think people who don't practice law can't understand as well as, of course, we can, which is that we recognize that everybody has a job to do. Everybody has a role to play. Everybody has responsibilities, and you go through the process. And so even though you don't agree with what other folks are doing, sometimes judges hand down decisions that I wish were different. But if I respect the fact that they're following the law and, they're basically treating my client fairly, then I may disagree with it, but it's not objectionable. And I don't think that it's wrong. That's not always the case, though. Sometimes I think stuff really is wrong. And messed up.
Yeah. And there's nothing more frustrating, I think, when you get in front of a judge and say you're arguing a motion to suppress, evidentiary motion to suppress evidence, then you've taken testimony from police officers, and then the judge then denies your motion and misapplies the law. Like that is very unfortunate. And that is something that I want to make sure we have judges who don't do that so much. Yeah. Doesn't happen a lot, but it happens. It does. It happens, and it shouldn't happen. It should just never happen. Did you see, by the way, I know, and we're going to have Congressman Moulton on very, very soon. Oh, okay. There's been more evidence of drug lab problems. Did you see this? No, I did not. Yeah. There were other chemists who were suspect, who were not investigated. I have not. I haven't read anything about this. When did this come out? In the last 36 hours. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. No, I did not know that. Yeah. The drug lab scandal, for people who don't know, in Massachusetts, there was a chemist, Annie Buchanan. There was another lab, the Hinton lab, where chemists were basically falsifying evidence, not actually performing drug tests, were actually using the drugs they were supposed to be testing, and certifying substances wrongly, and saying that there were more drugs than were actually there, or saying it was something it wasn't, and a whole bunch, I can't remember how many, but an enormous number of convictions were overturned and people went to jail. Right. And they had criminal records because of this. Yeah. It was I had clients that went to jail. I'm sure you did. I think every defense attorney did. I actually didn't. I didn't have a single, I only had one case, and it was a case that had gotten dismissed. So I didn't have anybody who had a conviction or anything as a result. But you did? Yeah, but it was overall, I don't think I'm wrong in saying 40,000 cases in the I think I was going to say 38,000. 38,000. It's right around there. Enormous numbers, the biggest evidentiary scandal. One woman and then another woman in a different lab. Right. One woman was just insane. The other woman was a drug addict. It was just, they just screwed the entire system. They screwed thousands of people. It's absolutely incredible. And cost the Commonwealth how many millions of dollars? Right. How many millions of dollars? I know. And apparently there were other chemists who were less than accurate as well. Wow. Okay. I'm gonna have to check that out tonight. Absolutely stunning. Terrible. That really is stunning. That is. All right. So tell us quickly about the college murderers. Oh, okay. It kind of something broke in the news today that Brian Kohberger, the accused in the Idaho college murders, his attorney filed a notice of alibi, I believe. And, cool. is saying that, that through their witnesses and cross-examination of the state's witnesses, they're going to prove that Brian Kohberger has an alibi witness. So considering that he was the weirdest person on the planet, and I don't think that's an exaggeration, he's clearly the weirdest person on the planet. He had 0 friends, 0. So I'm not sure who he was visiting, but we'll see.
We will see. And I thank you so much for your diligence on these gruesome crime stories, because I don't pay attention to them as much as you do. And I actually love hearing about them.
Yeah.
You're unmuted now.
Oh. Hey, can you hear us?
We can hear you. Can you hear us? We just can't see you.
Yes. Once Seth comes out, we'll flip the camera on. We're still just getting situated.
Awesome.
One thing that I wanted to flag for you guys is
Yeah.
Because we're doing this in the official office,
Okay.
we can't really do too much on the measure to add veterans to the ballot.
Too bad.
I know. So you can do basically the rules, you can throw it in as a question mixed into all the other topics, but you
Perfect.
can just talk about it for 20 minutes. So,
Okay.
that's the way that we can get it in there. So just kind of, throw it in the mix, but don't make it the main topic of the podcast, I would say is the best way to do it.
Can we talk about the Afghan Adjustment Act?
Yes, you can talk about all those other things for sure.
Okay, fabulous. Okay, great.
How are you?
Hey, thanks so much for joining us.
No, absolutely. I just walked in. We've got a busy day, so I just overheard that.
No, you're perfect. And we're honored to have you. Folks, want to let you know we're being joined by Congressman Seth Moulton. He has served as a U.S. rep for Massachusetts 6th Congressional District. He was elected in 2014. He served in the U.S. Marine Corps, did 4 tours of duty in Iraq, and he serves on the House Armed Services Committee, the Transportation Infrastructure Committee, and the Select Committee on Strategic Competition between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party. And we are thrilled to have you with us today. Thank you so much.
Mara, it's an honor to be on here. So thank you for letting me join the conversation.
Well, you know that I'm a Democrat, so that means that Pam must be the Republican. I know Pam is dying to ask you something. So go ahead, Pam.
So Congressman, first of all, thank you so much for being with us. And it's honestly, it's an honor to have you here. So thank you so much. So I was reading your bio. I mean, I know who you are, but I didn't know too much about you because I'm not from Massachusetts. So I read your bio that you went to Phillips Andover and then you went to Harvard University, which is all really impressive. And then you joined the Marines. And I was thinking to myself, not a lot of people who take that educational route would leave Harvard and join the Marines. So I commend you for that. But what made you do that?
Well, thanks for the question. And first of all, I think it's important to say that from a historical perspective, actually a lot of people did this. I mean, when you look at the walls of Memorial Church in Harvard Yard, or the chapel at Andover, there's a long tradition in America of people who are afforded the opportunity of a great education, giving back to the country and being willing to serve and even to lead in the nation's wars. But of course, that's not been the reality for the last, say, 40 or 50 years. And that's why your question's relevant, right? So if you walk into Memorial Church in Harvard Yard, there's this whole room devoted to all the Harvard men at the time who lost their lives in World War I. And then there's this massive wall in the main sanctuary devoted to all the Harvard graduates who died during World War II. And then there's a very small plaque for the Harvard lives lost in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. So there was a big change in the sentiment of our country, but I think that is shifting back, and there are more people who want to serve. And for me, the inspiration actually came from that church at Harvard, where I met the most important mentor of my life. He was the minister, Peter Gomes, also New York Times bestselling author, professor of one of the most popular courses on campus. I mean, to be perfectly honest, I'm not the most religious guy, but I felt like every time I heard him preach, it made me a little bit better person. Mm-hmm. And Peter talked a lot about the importance of service, of finding a way to give back. So as I was approaching graduation, I looked at Peace Corps, teaching overseas, but I just had so much respect for these 18-year-old kids who serve on the front lines in our nation's military that's where I decided I would do my part to give back.
That's great. I commend you for that. And I thank you for your service. And just in reading about you and reading some of the things you've been involved with, I really think that someday in the future you should run for president. I'm just saying. I do. I think
That's
you're
very
really
flattering, especially
qualified.
coming from a Republican, but thank you.
I know. She's my one. I have more
Don't
than
worry, no imminent plans to do that, but
I have more than one Republican friend, but she's my best Republican friend, and she comes out with stuff like that. And
I
And
know, I'm
that's
just
why.
saying, I
So
like to be fair to everyone, but I think it's great.
No,
I think, look, the thing that a lot of Americans want back in politics is just this sense of service, right? We want people who are there to serve the country, not just serve themselves. And I just always try to stay grounded in that. One of the things I do as a practical measure is I just keep in touch with the Marines that I served with, because I never want to forget why I came here, why I ran in that first campaign. There was actually a day in Iraq. It was a tough day for my Marines. And at the end of the day, this corporal of my platoon looked up at me and he said, sir, you ought to run for Congress someday so that this stuff doesn't happen again. And he used a Marine term for stuff, but you understand what I mean.
we do. And actually, Congressman, given your military background, I think it is an even more powerful statement coming from you that you say that you think the greatest threat to America is homegrown extremists. Can you tell us what that's about and what you think we need to do to respond to that?
Well, look, speaking very broadly here, there are a lot of problems we face in the world, right? We've got how to deal with a rising China that may start a war in the Pacific, and we all want to avoid war while competing economically with China. We've got climate change that's affecting every life in the planet in one way or another. We've got all sorts of economic problems at home. I mean, I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. I don't really like the idea of just giving them a massive debt from our generation that their generation has to figure out how to pay back. We've got all the problems with immigration and the inability to come together on immigration reform. I mean, you name it. We've got a lot of problems, and a lot of these problems should be tackled by Congress. But if Congress can't come together and actually develop reasonable solutions to these things, then we're going to cease functioning as a country, and there are going to be a lot of consequences for the entire world. So just generally speaking, the fact that we are so partisan right now, so unwilling to work together, so extremist in our politics on one side or the other, that's just a threat to American democracy. And I believe firmly that American democracy is important to the world. Now, on a more sort of concrete level about extremists themselves, I mean, growing up in America in the last 40 years and serving in the Marine Corps and in Iraq, I mean, of all the things that I could imagine happening in Washington, D.C., an insurrection against our government fomented by a sitting president of the United States is just the last thing on my list. By the way, I totally expected that in Iraq. And we were trying to start a democracy in the Middle East. I mean, assaults on the government, that was something we dealt with on a regular basis. We had a fortified green zone in Baghdad. But the idea that that would happen here at home in America, I mean, that really, I think, shook us to the core. And so whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, if you're just an American, we don't want that to happen. We need to come together as a country, and we need to have the political courage to take on these tough challenges facing America, like immigration.
Yes. And I just saw a recent poll. I don't like to put too much credit in polls, but I did see a recent poll saying that the top concern of Americans is the economy. But number 2 was our democracy, which goes to your point about the insurrection. People are really, really concerned about this and making sure that
I just think if we can fix democracy, we can fix all these other things. Like, we just need reasonable solutions. I mean, immigration reform isn't that hard. We need immigrants because otherwise we're going to run out of people for all these jobs. That's why you can't, I mean, so many restaurants in my district are not open Sundays and Mondays because they just can't hire enough people to staff them, right? So we need immigrants, and we all want immigrants to come here legally, not illegally. We want to be a nation that welcomes immigrants, as our long history proclaims, and yet we don't want people to have to crawl under fences or over walls or whatever to get here. So, like, there's a lot of agreement there, but both sides are playing this politically right now, and so we're not getting it done. On the economy, I think we can all agree, like, we want inflation to go down. We want more jobs here in America. We want to compete with all these other countries like China across the globe. And we want to do that without passing all these debts on to our kids. I mean, who would disagree with what I just said?
Right.
No one.
No one. No one. And I just want to make sure, I know your time is limited, and I know Pam has spoken a lot about mental health, and I know there's something she really wants to ask you about.
Yeah, I was reading about the program that you enacted, I think a year ago, 988, and I would love for you to tell us about it. And I've been very open on our podcast that I suffer from major depression and suicidal ideation, and it's really difficult. And so I totally appreciated 988, and I would just love for you to tell us about it.
Well, first of all, Pam, thank you for your courage, your personal courage in sharing that story, because what I learned when I became the first sitting member of Congress, I think in history, to actually talk about a personal mental health struggle, is it means a lot to other people. And I couldn't believe the number of people literally all over the country, but even people I knew really closely, like people who were on my staff, who after I told that story, opened up and said, you know, now I can talk about this. And so when I did that in 2019, I didn't just want to tell my story. I wanted to talk about what I'm going to do about the mental health crisis in America. So I put forward a 3-point plan. And one of those 3 pillars is establishing a 3-digit nationwide mental health hotline that everyone knows. You know, because you wake up in the middle of the night and your house is burning down. You don't need to find a phone book to look up the number for the fire department. We all know, just dial 911. And the idea is getting to the point where everybody in America, no matter where you are, what cell phone you have, if you or a loved one has a mental health crisis, you just know you dial 988. It's only been live for a year, and yet it's been an extraordinary success. I mean, I'm really amazed. It's exceeded our wildest expectations. Over 5 million calls. Calls are up 50% since before there was a 3-digit number. And texts, to listen to this, calls are up 50%, but texts, which of course are generally young people, texts are up 1,135%, which is a sad measure of the need, but also represents thousands and thousands of kids getting help. And I got to tell you a really quick story, Pam, because
Please.
These are impressive statistics. So I was speaking to a school group recently on the Capitol steps, and they asked, "Hey, what are you doing for us, basically?" And I said, "Well, let me tell you about 988. This is something that all you kids in middle school should know about." And so I shared some of those same statistics that I just shared with you, because they're impressive. But then after taking a picture with this school group, as they like, this woman from another school group who had just overheard this conversation walked up to me. And she said, I'm sorry to interrupt, sir, but I just want you to know that your law saved my daughter's life.
Mm.
And then she introduced me to her 12-year-old daughter.
Mm.
Unbelievable.
That is incredible. And we want to make sure folks know that 988 is also in Spanish now.
Yes, that's a big anniversary improvement, that we now have Spanish both voice and text, and we're looking to expand and improve this service even more. It used to be that when you called a suicide hotline, you had to wait a long time. Wait times are down 75% with the new law, but there's still more work to do, and we want to make sure that everybody, you know, like every veteran who calls can speak to a veteran-specific counselor, for example. That happens today, but it's not 100%. So we're still working to improve it. But one of the best things you can do, which you're doing literally right now, is just spreading the word so people know that this service exists.
It's phenomenal. It's one of the many reasons that we wanted to have you on today. Also, just want to circle back to immigration for a moment. Could you tell us about the Afghan Adjustment Act?
Yes. So obviously the withdrawal from Afghanistan was a debacle. It was really sad. And I went there with a Republican to understand firsthand what was going on. And we saved several dozen people by being there, but it also just brought home how terrible this crisis is. And these are Afghans who are real heroes, not just for their country, but for ours. They risked their lives for what we were trying to do there. So we've all agreed that we need to bring them to safety, as we promised. When guys like me on the ground said, if you work for us, we'll have your back if you get in trouble. But now they're here. They're so eager to work. These are amazing people who served on the front lines with our troops.
Yep.
But we don't have the legislation to simply give them citizenship. And that's what the Afghan Adjustment Act addresses. It should be bipartisan. It is bipartisan, but we've been having trouble just getting it over the hurdle in the Senate. And it sounds like we're getting close. I mean, I've been making a lot of calls. It sounds like we're getting there.
So this would just mean that non-citizens would be able to, people from Afghanistan would be able to stay here. Right now, they're staying on what's called humanitarian parole, which means that they can stay for pressing humanitarian reasons, which these clearly are. But this would make it possible for them to stay longer.
Right now, like I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know all these legal terminology, but it's really important. I mean, basically, what happened is the withdrawal was so chaotic that we didn't have time to do the proper application process for so many of these refugees. And so as a result, they're here without the normal paperwork that you would get if you came to America under these circumstances, like one of my translators from Iraq did, who's now a U.S. citizen, amazing, even joined the military. I mean, amazing guy. But so the point is that this was totally our fault as the United States of America, that we just as an emergency measure gave them this humanitarian parole that you mentioned, and we just got to fix it. It's an administrative error. We've got to fix it, and then these Afghan American heroes can really become parts of our community by getting permanent jobs, settling down with their families, paying taxes like all the rest of us. This is the future that they deserve, and we need to get them there.
Now that sounds great to me. And I know we just have a couple minutes left. Pam, did you want to ask the last question?
Yes, I wanted to ask you about some legislation in regards to veterans of the Second World War and their family members.
Yes,
African Americans or minorities. And can you just, I'm sorry, I don't recall.
Yeah, the GI Bill Restoration Act. So, I mean, most people don't know this. I didn't know this myself until a Marine who was on my staff brought this to my attention. But the GI Bill was a remarkable piece of legislation. It's been called the most successful piece of legislation ever. And it gave all these World War II veterans the opportunity to buy a home and go to college, the two foundational ways to build wealth in America. And although it was heroically passed, before the Civil Rights Act, to be race neutral, the problem is it wasn't implemented that way. And so thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands, about 1 million is the estimate actually, of Black veterans from World War II just were denied benefits by
millions.
Yeah. I mean, the statistics are incredible.
Ah.
And so we've got to right this wrong. And of course, it affected not just these World War II veterans, but their families. You're much more likely to go to college if your parents went to college, right? You're much more likely to own a home if your parents owned a home. And so that's what this does, is this bill just restores those benefits to the veterans themselves or their immediate descendants if they didn't get them. And this is not it's one of these things that everyone just agrees, wow, I didn't know that happened, but of course, we should fix that injustice. And I was very proud to have Jim Clyburn, who many people know for his role in President Biden's election in South Carolina. He was my first co-sponsor on the bill, and we're doing a big push. Andrea Campbell, Attorney General of Massachusetts, has gotten a whole bunch of other attorneys general across the country to sign on to a letter supporting the bill, and hopefully we'll be able to get it to a vote later this year.
Well, thank you. We will be following that as well as everything. Thank you so much for doing all this great work. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's great to see you.
Thank you.
Great to see you too. Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you.
What an impressive guy.
Really, what else is there to say? No, I think he's remarkable and clearly thoughtful, conscientious. I mean, and I loved your question and his answer about it being unusual to go into the military after Phillips and Harvard. And he said, well, this used to happen all the time, but then it stopped happening.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to say. Like, again, like, what is there to go disparate on? Like,
nothing. I mean,
what's to disagree on
like
here?
He wants to work on bipartisan efforts, and he makes a concerted effort at it, and he's a veteran and a very nice, nice guy, nice family guy, smart. And yeah, I mean, I meant it when I said, like, I'm sure someday, I hope, he'll run for president.
He's explored it. He has
Yeah, he
explored it.
should.
Yeah,
He's the right kind of guy, right? He has the background that people look for in a sense. And I think, yeah, he's a smart guy. Totally enjoyed having him on. We're honored to have him on, really.
It was an honor to have him on. Absolutely stunning to know that 1 million Black veterans were denied their GI benefits on the basis of race. Wow.
I mean, I didn't know anything about that, right? I didn't know.
So, well, you know about the GI Bill, right? But I didn't.
But it's not like anything I really thought about, to be honest.
Well,
with
it's
you. Like the
housing and
GI Bill.
education benefits for our veterans.
No, I mean, like, I know what it was, but I didn't really give it any thought, right? It was 75 years ago.
Right. So this bill would provide benefits to the surviving spouses and descendants of people who were denied benefits under the GI Bill on the basis of race. And of course, that's what we should do. That's incredible. Are you sure you're not a Democrat?
I'm really not. I mean, like, again, I wouldn't vote for him. I mean, just because I think someone's super nice and should run for president doesn't mean that, like, I'm going to vote for him.
Oh, okay. I'll be sure to tell him the next time I see him. Pam said, by the way,
don't tell him that
she wouldn't vote for you. She just thinks you should run. That's an important.
He'd be a great Democratic candidate. That's all I'm saying. He'd be a great Democratic candidate.
No,
I know. I mean, I've looked at some. I mean, I did like my background check on him in a sense, like looking through some of the bills. And he was like tremendous amount of bipartisan efforts that he's made, and I think that is what we need in Congress, right? I mean, we need less of the screaming at each other and more of the like, how can we just work together to actually help people? Like who actually need help.
Right, exactly, which is exactly what he's talking about. And all these things are totally sensible and they're just. It's like you hear them and you go, yes, that's the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. So that was great. And thank you. And I also appreciated him thanking you for your candor on your own issues with mental health. And I think
that we as a society need to be open about issues. And if people go around parading that they're perfect and have perfect lives and their life is perfect and I'm so wonderful, you're doing a disservice not only to yourself, but to the people surrounding you. So if you want to be a leader and talk about real things.
Good for you. I've spoken about my sister dying of a substance use disorder, which is true. It was alcohol that killed her, but she also had depression. And I believe that it was, so I think she had bipolar type 2 depression, it's bipolar disorder, but it's lower highs and higher lows, but the lows are longer. So you're more at risk with bipolar 2. And I think that she had long periods of sobriety, but I think when she relapsed, it was because she was getting depression. So it's, folks, it's not just the individuals, it's the families of the people who suffer. And I mean, we lost her, and it was depression and alcohol put together, and it's tragic. And so when people do talk about this stuff, you're right. Congressman Moulton is right. It helps. He did it.
Right. It makes you feel not so alone. Because if you look at someone, you say, like, I'm sure, right, thousands upon thousands of people who know Congressman Moulton look up to him, like more than that, right? We're saying like people maybe in his district. Right. And if you're someone who says, you know what, I suffer from depression, and look at Congressman Moulton and look at what he's done.
Yes.
Right. Like,
and look at you, right.
See a glimmer of hope. Like maybe if I could get some help, like that's all it is, right? Just being.
It is. And it's so fantastic that we now have 988. We used to have the suicide prevention lifeline, and that would get like 2 million calls a year. 988 is getting 5 million calls a year.
It's fantastic.
It's reaching more than twice as many people. Absolutely incredible. And the statistic on the texting and the young folks who are getting the help they need. Yeah. Is it, all these things, it's like what Simon Rosenberg was saying the other day when we had him on. There are a lot of reasons to feel good about what's happening right now. There's stuff like this. These are things you can feel good about.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. I'm going to feel really good when Hunter Biden goes to jail, though, I think.
I don't think he's going to go to jail. But seriously, that moment in the beginning of the show, when we both said, just treat everyone the way you treat the privileged, Pam, I'm going to write that down. I think those are words to live by. Treat everyone the way you treat the privileged.
Correct.
That's it, Pam.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm writing it down. Yeah. And folks, we like to tell everybody on the show, just remember, No candidate is perfect. That's what former Congressman Mike Capuano said when he came on the show. He said, voters need to know no candidate is going to be perfect. You find the one you like the best, and that's the one you vote for. And that's what makes a difference. We all have our own opinions, but change comes from people who are elected and then have power, and they represent us, like Congressman Seth Moulton, who represents the people of his district. He has power to do things and get things done. And that's how you make change. You vote. So get to the polls, subscribe to this podcast.
Before you vote, subscribe to this podcast.
Give us
Please.
a 5-star review. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Insta, and Facebook. You can find us at Going Disparate. Drop us a line at pamandmara@gmail.com. Not sure. We're not on Threads yet. I want to know from folks if they think we should get it. I like Threads, because Twitter's really. So anyway,
Watch us on YouTube, though. Watch us on YouTube.
Oh yes, watch some. This, like, all our shows are great. They really are. And this one was really great. But I always feel that way at the end of every show. I'm like, this was a really good one. But
This was it.
This was good. This was good. All right,
Yeah.
thanks. We'll see you
All
next
right.
time, folks.
Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
Bye.